for joining me now. It's an absolute privilege to have Everton's most successful captain, making over 350 appearances, coming through the academy, going on to lift 2 titles, an FA Cup and a European Cup Winners' Cup, whilst also captaining Wales. And I think importantly as well, it's quite a significant day. It marks the anniversary of us winning our 8th league title on this day in '85.
Yeah.
Kevin Ratcliffe, how are you, pal?
I'm great, thanks. Yeah, not too bad.
Good. Just first and foremost, because I've been interviews that I've had over this last month or so, I just feel like just asking people, how are you holding up with this whole lockdown, COVID-19?
I've been in Spain for 8 weeks, stuck out there.
So
we had a little bit of problem. My wife fell off the step ladders and fractured a foot in 3 places. So when we were due back, we couldn't get a certificate to fly for her. So we ended up staying there. And then the next flight was cancelled. And that's all it's been. We've been sitting out there. Lucky enough, we got a little apartment. And the weather wasn't great, so it didn't entice you to go out. But the rules are very strict over there. You step out of line, if you're caught walking where you shouldn't be. Well, in fact, you couldn't go out and walk unless you go on the bin or some necessity. Anything from €600 to a 20 grand fine. So they've really stamped down on it out there, and it's worked. And we were sort of, me and the wife Sharon were looking at things, what was happening over here, and we're saying, how stupid are we? You give give people an inch, they'll take a mile. So don't even give them an inch. You're going out on a Thursday night, clapping the HS, which is a great thing, by the way. But not when there was about 1,000 people on London Bridge doing it. Not ambulance men, but police officers stopping us. I just thought, whoa, hold on a minute. It's just, and no wonder there's more deaths here than any other European country.
No, tell me about it.
Yeah, it's just not right. I just wondered if they actually took the same procedure as Spain. What would the sort of death count be then? How much less would it be? And I'm sure it would have been less.
Yeah, but I hope your wife makes a speedy recovery, by the way. But
she's getting plenty of time to recover now.
onto matters at hand. Late last year, I was at the comedy club with a mate in town for an audience with yourself and Mark Higgins.
Oh yeah, good that. It was yeah.
And I know you've got plenty of funny and fond memories as an apprentice. But if someone came to you then as a young lad and told you you'd go on to be the most successful captain this club's ever seen, would you have believed them?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that. You've got ambitions in football. Well, I don't know if it's any different now, but it's it is different because you mentioned come through it wasn't an academy then. It was a youth setup. It was an apprenticeship, and that apprenticeship went from when you signed in the July to when you were 18. So if you were sort of signing as a 16-year-old, but your birthday was in September or October, you literally had about 14, 15 months to prove yourself, if that, because obviously you've got the end of the season coming up as well. Mm-hmm. So you just had over a year to prove yourself. And if you have a look at the birth dates of a lot of people, the successful people and people who had actually got contracts from a club were before Christmas. So their birthdays were before Christmas, and you had to be a little bit physically stronger, obviously, and a little bit more advanced for them to give you that contract. Yeah, and it was it was tough, but never in my life. I think they must have seen that I had a leadership quality, because I was captain of quite a few of the teams. The youth teams and B teams, A teams that you played in. Then obviously I went up to sort of captain the reserves as well. But there was a couple of good young players with me. You look at Mark Ward was a couple of years younger. Steve McMahon, I think, he signed. He had to wait for a place to come. He was there the same time as me, but his birthday was in August, so he had a good 2 years apprenticeship, more or less. he was there. Paul Lodge, Joe McBride, Pat Hurd, Brian Burrows come in. Brian Burrows was an amateur for a good year or two. Coming in, he wasn't working. He was picking up his dole and then coming into training. So some days he'd be late. I think it was usually on a Thursday when he was signing on. So we had some really quality players. The only thing we never had was, I would say, a striker, and I think we would have won the Youth Cup if we would have had a striker.
Okay.
We just didn't have a striker. We were trying things out with players playing up front from the left wing and the right wing. But I remember, there was another lad coming through called Dean Kelly. What happened to him? I think he went over to the States, to play Dean Kelly. But he was a good player. Him and Wardy in the same time was a funny time to play. Characters, them two. Yeah. I remember going over to Le Havre, I think it was, and I think we won the tournaments over there, and Wardy got the man of the match, and he played up front, and he was a right winger. And I think it was the Italian team were just like amazed that how sort of quick and fiery he was for a small guy. Because most of the time in that youth team, I played centre half with Paul Lodge.
I know Lodgy. He's at Accrington now, isn't he?
Yeah, so Lodgy was he played centre half with me, and I think it was Derek Gould in the year after that played centre half, but mainly that first year. I think we got to the semi-finals against Millwall and got knocked out. But that was an experience going to Den as a 17-year-old, and I think there was about 14 or 15,000 watching, and they had a good side. They had a really good side. Yeah, but I didn't think anything about captain or winning things with Everton. You just wanted to progressively, get that contract, and then you're physically really trying to get the next contract, and then hoping you're going to have that breakthrough, with the lads. And you see some of the lads that I was fighting up against, Dave Jones, Roger Kenyon, Nick Lyons, Billy Wright. Mark Higgins was there. There was a long list of players before me, if you know what I mean. And that was quite daunting at times, but you just get your head down, keep playing, and hopefully you get that chance. Yeah,
you certainly did. Now, I thought it'd be interesting to ask you this, like Evertonian to Evertonian almost. Like, I've read your My Memories of Everton book, and I think it was particularly interesting that you go into quite a bit of detail about that side in the 60s. You've got another iconic Everton captain there in Brian LeBone, who I know when you did the question and answer with the Chicago Evertonians account, that you said that you reckon Labby's the best ever Everton captain. I'm just wondering, was there anything that you took from Labby, or any sort of encounters or experiences that helped you sort of?
No, I didn't know Labby at all.
No.
Just in passing. There's about a decade between me and Labby, and it's a long time in football. I signed in 76, 77. I think Labby had finished around about 71, 72.
Right.
Through injury, left Everton, or I don't know where he went after that. And I sort of towards the end of Everton career bumped into Labby more, because he did the lounges and things like that. I think it was. I can't remember. Or, you go to a dinner or a supporters club thing. So I didn't really know how Labby worked. I knew how Mick Lyons worked, and seeing what he had to do as a captain. And he was a fantastic captain, was Mick Lyons. The way that he led from the front. If anybody played with the badge, for the supporters, that fella did it more than anybody. His heart and soul was in Everton Football Club. Maybe too much.
Interesting.
Because he couldn't understand why people, whatever they did, I always remember him saying to me, that you got to think that you're playing for your country or running for your country. You're doing a run, and my worst running situation would be a 12-minute run. I hated it, couldn't do it. A 12-minute run, I'd do in 18 minutes or something. I was just dreadful at it, and everybody knew. And he used to come to me and he said, you've got to think that you're running for your country. And I'm thinking, why don't you think about that when you're sprinting? That was my forte, sprinting. And I think everybody knew that. But, that was my worst part of training. Somebody said to me, top corner. And I knew if they said top corner, that meant a 12-minute run. I used to have nightmares about it.
But what seemed very distinctive about, those groups of players, the 60s and the 70s, and I think most definitely in the 80s, was that they understood the culture of the club and what it meant to play for Everton Football Club, like especially during the 80s, given the sort of the social political climate of
I think a lot of it's down to British players.
Yeah,
British players know about British clubs. A lot of home international players playing, very few foreigners. I can't remember the first foreigner that actually come to Everton when I was there. I think it might be somebody like Robert Wasapi or Preki.
Yeah,
it was either one of them two. I'm not too sure, unless you want to call Jason Keaton a foreigner. I mean, he was Australian.
Yeah.
But never really classed him as a foreigner because he spoke really good English. Stefan Wren. But them players, did they know? I suppose they did because we were winning things. But I don't think they really knew much about other than the club, about the club, if you know what I mean, the history of the club. But most British players would know the history of Everton Football Club, and I think that's a problem these days. It's Everton Football Club playing in the Premiership sometimes, and that's what entices the foreigner to actually go to the football club and not the football club itself.
Yeah, see what it's like these days. But and this is what I wanted to ask you in terms of an Evertonian to Evertonian. Obviously, I unfortunately didn't get to experience any of this. I've not seen us lift the trophy. I was born in '98. I was told an awful lot about that team in the '60s. As an observer, obviously the different formation, you've got the Holy Trinity in midfield, Harvey, Kendall, Ball. What were the key differences between that side in the '60s and the side in the '80s?
Difference. Well, I would say they played a different formation than ourselves. I think the formation that they played was more a 4-3-3, whereas we were playing 4-4-2.
Yeah.
Very hard to beat, very hard to score against. I tell you what's a tough one, their midfield against our midfield, mainly because they played with three in the midfield area. Harvey, Kendall, Ball. Oh, what a class act that is! But you look at Reedy and Brace; they're different types of players. They were
quality
more,
nonetheless, though.
Sorry,
quality nonetheless.
Got quality in different ways. You would say that, Alan Ball, which was my hero, was most probably one of the best players that's ever played for Everton. I think it'd be very, very hard to take anybody from their side into ours, and vice versa as well. If you're Joe Royle, you speak to Joe Royle. There's no better left winger than Johnny Morrissey. And I seen Johnny Morrissey, but he's a completely different player than Kevin Sheedy.
Yeah.
Kevin Sheedy wouldn't go past players. But he would pass the ball. He'd pass the ball 40, 50, 10 yards to somebody's feet, or just in front of them. He was just when you speak to some of the lads and they ask you who was outfield players, who was the best, then Kevin Sheedy stands there because he was something different.
Yeah.
And I've not seen anybody touch him anywhere in football since as a type of player that he was. He'd be great for an overlapping fullback to have in your side, but we didn't really have an overlapping fullback because you didn't need to with Kev Sheedy. Because he'd be looking for that sort of diagonal ball to the back post or somebody making a run through. Pat used to just sort of hang back a little bit, supporting him just in case he did actually lose the ball. Yeah. So, like I say, different players. I think the only sort of resemblance would be the striker in Joe Royle, very similar to Graham Sharp or Andy Gray.
Yeah.
As a target man. You look at Jimmy Husband, who played most of the year on the right, then Trevor Stephen would get in your side. But, if you're looking for like, I think you'd pick Trevor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got that back four where you're just thinking, would you get in the side? That's a tough one. The back four. Tommy Wright.
Yeah.
Right back, Gary Stevens. Choose between them two. And I'd seen both players play, and Tommy was a great player. Then you got Labby and you got John Hurst. John Hurst was a class player.
Yeah, class.
Labby a leader. You got the famous left back.
Yeah.
Who would you get him? Because it was tough. I think the keeper was a non-starter, isn't it?
Gordon West, though.
Top keeper. There's no doubt about it. He was a top keeper, but was he as good as Nev?
No, Nev.
He wasn't world class. No, wasn't the best in the world, was he? No. And that's what Nev was.
Would you say Nev was the best in the world at the time?
Yeah. Now, I don't know about the rest of the squad because, I've just named you the 60s team.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same with the 80s team. You can name the 80s team.
True.
And then we got Kevin Richardson and you've got Alan Harper, who played in our side, who most probably get in any other side, who was so vital to us. Alan Whittle, that's the only one that I can really think about. Alan Whittle, Sandy Brown.
Yeah, like utility players.
Yeah. So I think the lad Jackson come to us as well in the 70s, didn't he? From Derby, was he? I
think so.
Yeah. So it's, I tell you what, it'd be a tough one that to pick a combined side from them two eras.
I know, it'd be a hell of a game to watch. You two up against each other, both sides.
Yeah, different type of game though.
Yeah,
I watched I've watched the 66 Cup final a couple of times, and no offsides.
Yeah,
it was played between 18-yard box and 18-yard box. I tell you what, they must have been fit them days, the midfield to actually play. Like Gabby and Colin when they played together. They must have covered some ground.
I know. Tell me about it. And obviously, you've grown up watching it as part of that Holy Trinity. The gaffer himself, Howard Kendall. Did you get the inkling, from watching him as a fan, that he'd go on to be a great manager?
No, didn't think that at all. I think with Howard, you don't realise how good somebody is until you train with them or play with them. Howard was a fantastic footballer. Never give the ball away. Couldn't get the ball back, by the way. But he wouldn't give the ball away.
Even as a manager?
Well, obviously your legs go when you're a little bit older, so you don't want to do that part of the game. Colin Harvey. What a player. What a touch. And, you go back whichever era, footballers at the top level have got a touch and an awareness and a desire. Colin had every single one of them. I think Howard was a little bit more laid back and chilled. Colin was intense. He was on your back all the time. Nothing less than 100% in every training session. And whatever you did in training, he wanted the best. And
you think that's why he complimented them so well as assistant coach? Because you hear a lot of players say Colin was just unprecedented and sort of like the benchmark that he set.
It was on your back all the time. And I'd had that as a 16-year-old right the way through. Because he was my youth team coach, my reserve team coach, and I tried my best to get away from him, but he kept following me through the ranks, and I'm glad. I'm so made up because he was a top coach, and I think with Colin, I think he needed somebody to manage him as well, and that's what Howard did, as in managing the coaching sessions. But the two of them used to play, along with Mick Heaton, in a lot of the coaching sessions. He's still there. So, So it was it was a joy to play with two legends.
Yeah, of course.
Who in my eyes were like really, my era of watching Everton Football Club as a supporter. That it was great to train with them, and one of the reasons, one of the reasons I signed for Everton was because obviously Everton Football Club, I was going to go sort of be coached by Colin Harvey, one of the greats. So that's I was so close to signing for Chester City Football Club as an apprentice because they had such a great record of bringing kids through. And I thought I'd get a chance in the first team. But, to get the chance to train at the training ground and not on a school pitch or something is a little bit special.
Of course. Something that I was curious about is the relationship between yourself and Howard. How old were you when you were made captain? 23?
I think it could have been about 22 when he first made me captain.
Like that's young to be made captain of Everton Football Club.
I think I was 22, and then I think regular as a 23-year-old. If you know, I got it in the pre-season, in a game against Dundee, and I think I can't remember if it was that season or the season before. Mark Higgins was left out of the pre-season game, which he did now and again. It wasn't because he wasn't playing badly. He just left him out and put me, and then he's given me the task of taking the team out. And, I look round in the changing room, the Reedies there, so lad Mickey Walsh, Alan Ainscoe, David Johnson, who'd won European Cups and everything. And he's given it to me, and I'm just like a little bit sort of stunned that, why me?
Yeah.
And then I think, that November, obviously, I think it was just after November, I think Iggy got injured and that was it. He was out, finished. We didn't think that at the time, but I was given the armband. And it worked out a good decision, I think. I was, you can't get any better, can you, than captain your club that you've supported. So.
Most definitely. Such slight responsibility placed on your shoulders with Howard as the manager. I was watching I've watched this several times, to be honest, the film Howard's Way. It's mad to think he put you on the transfer list, isn't it?
But things weren't going right. I mean, I was put on the transfer list mainly because the season before, he just wasn't picking me, and every time I got in, I was playing well. And I just don't know if he had this thing in his head that, I wasn't a left back, right? So he was looking for better quality at left back, which I understand. But as a centre back, every time I went in, I played well. But every time I went into the side, I played with Mark Higgins, and Mark Higgins was a left footer. And for some reason, Howard didn't fancy two left footers. So him and Billy Wright used to play. And I just went in one day. I think it was after a Newport game. We played Newport away in the Cup. And I played really well with Mark Higgins. And in fact, he might have played with Billy Wright on that game. And he dropped whichever one, Mark Higgins or Billy Wright. But then the following week, he dropped me. And I've gone in to see him. And I said, I just feel as if I've been left out or brought in to give somebody a kick up the backside. And he just sort of nodded, and I went, oh, cheers, I need to go on the list. So that was it. And as far as I know, I'm still on it.
Do you not think that was some sort of psychological thing on his end to try and motivate you in a way? Because obviously,
I don't think he was trying to motivate me.
I think so.
No.
Test you.
I mean, he couldn't do anything else because I was doing. I thought I was playing well. And I was a nasty man if I wasn't playing. I'd be going around, I'd be kicking people, and he'd have to he'd stop training once just to stop me sort of kicking that. I mean, I smashed into lines, he had smashed into bales, and I was just trying to prove, I'm here. Come on. And it used to, and it gets to you, when you feel as if you've done well and you're being left out. You say, what more can you do? And obviously I didn't think I was destined to actually play a big role in Everton Football Club. So I think it was the following year when things started to change, obviously, with myself getting a chance. I think that was away to Ipswich. I got a chance, and he left Billy Wright out, didn't even take him, and I think we won away from home. And me and Iggy then was, the partnership.
Yeah,
And I still believe today that if Higgy, didn't get injured, we wouldn't have bought Dave Watson. There's no way we would have bought Dave Watson, because Higgy was a good player, a very good player. And that it would have been him walking up steps and picking up trophies, and not me.
True. I was wondering, obviously, because you'd been there through sort of the 70s, the early 80s, when, what was it, a Coventry game where things weren't going too well and there was only like a 7,000 gate or whatever. I mean, Howard was in charge for that, and to think he'd turn it round in such a short space of time. When did you start getting the feeling like he's building?
I think after the game, I think we played Notts Forest on the Saturday. After the game, we didn't win it. I think we drew, but it was Andy Gray's first game. We'd signed him on the Thursday, and I think he changed the mentality of players and the way that we used to look at games and look at opponents and dominate them. Because if you have a look at that side, it was pretty, at the back there wasn't much things changing. Up front was Sharpie, and things weren't changing. It was the midfield that changed. And I still think today you've got to have that little bit of luck as a manager. And I think he struck lucky, because he tried Reedy before in games and it wasn't working. It's all about partnerships. And in the end, he found a partner. I think he dropped Adrian Heath into midfield to play alongside him later on. But, Kev Rich was playing. Remember, Kev Rich was like a year, 2 years younger than me. And I was 22, 23 in the side. That Coventry game, I would have only been 22. I think Iggy would have been one of the oldest, as in being about 26, 27. No, maybe less than that, about 20, 25.
Still a very young side, though.
Yeah, it was very young. So Andy Gray comes in and Reedy and bumps the age right up. So I just think Howard, putting Reedy on, Reedy changing things in that Coventry game. And the fire. You're seeing what Reedy's bringing to the team. You're seeing what Andy Gray, very similar characters as in, winners. And I think that just, give us that confidence, and we become, Andy Gray making Sharpie a better player. So sometimes, the better players make players better, not your coaches sometimes. So if you're training with better players, you become a better player. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
The one thing that we were doing was picking up things very, very quickly at the back through Howard and the coaching sessions. And I think that was down to, the lads being switched on at the back, because the way that we played was completely different from any other manager. The way that we squoze up, when to squeeze, when to drop, was just, something that we worked on and clicked. That was, players that come in the back, like Dave Watson, Paul Power, when he come in, they took time to actually adjust to the way we played at the back. And it's amazing to think how young we were and now it clicked for us. And they come in at an older age and they struggled. They struggled when they first come in, but they took to it and they improved as well.
How did you find playing alongside Derek Mountfield? Obviously, that's the partnership at the back that,
well, Derek was one of these that, was a winner in the air. The amount of times he won the balls in the air when you didn't think he was going to win it. I had a good relationship with Derek because I think I knew his weaknesses and worked well with him. He was a strong character in the fact that he was a year or two younger than me. So if I was 22, 23, he'd only be about 21. It worked well. We seemed to read each other's game, which was so important. And he was a lot quieter. He was a lot quieter. And I had to, sometimes give him a rollicking. That's one thing I never had to do with Dave Watson.
No?
Believe it or not. No, didn't have to rollick Dave Watson. I always wanted a little bit more out of Derek, I think. I don't know why. I just wanted a little bit more out of him. And, when you could see him maybe slipping, that you'd give him. And the greatest thing about it was he responded.
Yeah.
You know.
The goals he scored for a centre half. Jeez.
I think it was about the timing and once again it clicked. Him and Sheeds clicked. The amount of times that maybe Sheeds crossed it in, that it, where the ball was going to go, the timing of the run from Derek, because that's what was so important about Derek, his timing of his runs, and to get 14, I think, goals in one season was just ridiculous from his position.
No.
Yeah, but Derek, I think Derek knew his limitations, and I think, like everybody else, we never really tried to do something that we couldn't. And mine was scoring goals, so I didn't try.
But I've got to be honest, I'd take a 30-yarder at Anfield over 14 goals in a season.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think I'd like to have scored a little bit more, but I wasn't allowed up.
No,
I was always stuck at the back. Yeah. I think it was mainly because of my pace. But
yeah, very, very quick.
Wanted that. Yeah, they wanted that security of maybe me sort of like, sweeping up behind.
I spoke to Derek late last year. He said to sort of the catalyst to develop that sort of winning behaviour. Obviously, like the likes of Reed and Greg coming in, but he said losing the Milk Cup final. I think it was at 84.
Yeah. Well, before the FA Cup final.
Yeah, that sort of gave us the sort of belief to go on to.
Yeah, I think once you've had a taste of being at Wembley, you want to go back and back and back. Obviously, you only got there in finals them days, not for playoffs or semi-finals. So, I think that was like that kick that we wanted. The good thing was we never lost in that game at Wembley. It was at Main Road. But I would say definitely that we've had a feel for it. And all of a sudden, you've had that experience of playing at Wembley. I think in that team that played, I think I might have been the only one that had played at Wembley in the cup final. And I played there for Wales, and I played there for Wales schoolboys as a 15-year-old. So I think I played 2 or 3 games there at Wembley before we'd actually got. And I think I was the only one in the side. Because when you think, I don't think there was many internationals in our side then, in the FA Cup winning side. Only myself, Neville, Sheeds.
Right-hand side, Stephen.
I don't think they would actually started playing
for England, not at that time.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think it was more towards the 86 World Cup.
Okay.
They started getting in the side. Otherwise, Derek would have been playing, wouldn't he?
True.
I think Derek sort of missed out through injury, I think, if I can recall, of not really getting that chance to go and play for England. I'm not quite sure.
No.
But no, Reedy wasn't part of the England squad until, I think going on then, maybe after we played in the cup final, people were recognising the likes of Reed, the rest of the lads, and Gary Stevens. Trevor Stevens was only a 19-year-old, I think. 20-year-old when we played in the cup final. And if you think about who was left out in that side, Terry Curran, who'd been he'd been on the right, and Alan Irvine. I mean, they were battling it out, Alan and Terry Curran. Then all of a sudden, I would give Trevor his chance. I don't think Trevor played in the semi-final. Sharpie never played in the semi-final. Terry Curran played in the semi-final, I'm sure. So, that things were changing. And, Howard was changing it slowly, and it was working.
Yeah, and then obviously that 84-85 season. I mean, I know we lost the opening 2 games, but I think our longest unbeaten run was something like 28 games.
That was weird. Tottenham, wasn't it, the first game?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tottenham 4-1.
Something like that. That was a good one, wasn't it?
They had 4 chances. I've never known a game where you've played that well and lost that heavily. And it just seemed that, I think, Clive Allen, his movement was fantastic. I think he scored 1 or 2. That was a wake-up call, believe it or not. You're thinking, we've been a one-season wonder. I think we went to West Brom after that. Did we draw at West Brom or did we lose? Can't remember.
I'm not too sure. I'd have to look back.
Yeah. But they, then we're going to Chelsea and you're thinking, on a Friday night, I think it was one of the first games to be filmed, shown on a Friday night at Stamford Bridge. And Kev Rico scored. I don't know why Sheed wasn't playing. But I think Kev Richardson played left side, and he got the winner.
Yeah.
But once again, it was one of them performances where, we don't concede, we don't lose. And that was a mentality. I mean, that's a stupid saying. You don't lose if you don't concede.
No,
but that was bred into you to, protect your goal. Be as proud as a keeper to have a clean sheet.
Yeah, I've always been told though by like family some of my family's best days of their lives were following us in the 80s there, and they've always said with that side that even if we conceded, we could always just go down the other end and score two.
I wouldn't have said that early on.
No.
In the career, but I think once you've won something, there was like a never say die attitude within the boys, and you'd find a way. I've heard pundits say that now. You find a way to win, and that's what we did. We could score from. Howard always used to put sort of a goal tally on certain players. Especially the midfield, and wanted a return from them. I don't think he really expected me. He never mentioned anything to me about scoring goals.
No,
you just keep out the way. But I'm sure he looked at Derek and gave Derek a goal of between 5 and 10, and he exceeded that. Gary Stevens, he expected around about half a dozen goals. I don't think he did on the other side with Pat or Bales when Bales played. That he knew where goal scorers, were in the side. Midfield, Reedy and Brace, he'd want anything around about 16 goals between them.
Yeah.
And Sheeds, he just left it up to the magician to choose when he wanted to score and when he didn't.
Yeah.
He was just, he was a lifesaver at times.
Yeah. Brilliant. Out of the sort of the winners' medals that you've got, if you could take your pick out of the one that means most to you and the one that you're most proud of, what would it be?
FA Cup, first one.
First one. Quite a few players have said that.
Yeah, first one.
Even over the European Cup Winners' Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the first one. Look, I think younger generation would sort of open mouthed looked at you and think you are like type of thing. But we brought up with the FA Cup, from 8 o'clock in the morning to maybe 12 o'clock at night. There was no bigger star than Freddie Starr at ours at the time. He was massive. He was getting between £15,000 and £20,000 a gig in them days, and he was at our FA Cup final, travelling, sitting down having a pre-match meal. The only thing that Howard didn't let him do was actually get on the team bus, but he was at the ground.
Yeah.
With I think the other one was Michael Barrymore. And you're sitting there, and even taking little things from Freddie and the banter he was having with Michael Barrymore. And I always remember that there was a lot more supporters at our hotel in Beaconsfield. We stayed. And obviously, the Watford players were staying at somewhere else, and Michael Barrymore was there. And Michael Barrymore turned to Freddie, and they were doing a link like we are now on TV. I don't think they could see each other. And he turned around to Freddie and said, "Why is there more people at the Everton hotel than there is at at my hotel?" And he says, "I'm a bigger star than you." And I thought, that's class, that. And he was, by the way, he was.
Yeah. Out of the dressing room sort of atmospheres, if you could take your pick of the bunch, what would be your favourite sort of Everton dressing room that you've been in your career? Because obviously everyone says the Bayern Munich game was...
Oh, you mean a game that it was in? Oh, look, the bigger the game, there's not a lot said.
No?
Yeah, you more or less concentrate. The people that usually have a little bit of a report. I was quite quiet, must admit, before the game. I wasn't one of them that was getting around the lads and saying, come on, get into these. You know, Andy Gray would be quite vocal, Reedy be vocal. Nev was just Nev. And if he did say anything, you wouldn't understand the word he said anyway. But, yeah. You know, you get more experience as you get older. The second league title team was good banter, but very, very similar to the first. You know, we all got on. That was the best thing. You know, we all got on. So things could be said that you wouldn't say to other people.
True.
And still is now. You say things to them lads that you would never ever dream of saying to anybody else or any other footballer.
Yeah.
It could be conceived as very ruthless.
Yeah, it seemed like that back in them days. Who was the vice captain in that team?
Wouldn't have a clue.
No.
I never missed a game.
Because I was going to say, like, just, it seemed like, obviously, as the confidence grew, just everyone seemed like leaders, but didn't seem like
that's the ideal, you know, good teams have more than one captain.
Didn't seem like any clashes of egos, though, either.
No, don't think there was. No, like I say, you weren't allowed to. You know, if you stepped over that line, you were told. Howard had a fining system in that the players actually collected that fine for him sometimes. You know, they if you were 10 seconds late getting on the bus, the lads would rat on you. And it was mainly because we were getting the money back in our pockets by going, you know, on a tour or whatever. So it was well managed. Where that's the art of being a really good manager, is getting the players to manage certain things, and that's what Howard did. Yeah,
he seemed very complimentary of you, Redden, in the forward. He said you made his life a hell of a lot easier as captain, and I mean, for a successful side, I think a relationship between a captain and its manager is like almost up there as its most crucial.
Well, it's a bit easier when you're winning things.
True.
I think it's harder when you're not. And I think Howard would vouch for that. It's harder, you know, for a captain as well. Because more often than not, if things aren't going right, you've got a few bad apples.
Yeah.
And, you know, the one thing you got to try and do is get rid of them apples. Otherwise, a lot more go bad. So he was, like you said, when you're successful, it's a lot easier.
True. But obviously, you know, on this day in '85, it's only right to ask, QPR at home, if we win, we're league champions. Like, what are your memories of that day?
Not a great deal, I must admit. You know, you have to get reminded who scored.
Yeah.
Then I always knew Sharpie scored, but I didn't realise the first goal was Derek, wasn't it?
Manfield, yeah.
Yeah. And with his feet.
I know.
Great finish, by the way.
Came off the keeper and in.
But I spoke to somebody today, and they actually said there's not much footage of that game. And what it is, you can't really see the players because after the whistle, we just got bombarded by press on the pitch. Very similar to the Rapid Vienna game. And the supporters couldn't really see us. You know, maybe more at the Rapid Vienna game in Rotterdam. But yeah, there was a lot of, you know, I think we were trying to tell them to get away, but, you know, they're just following us around the pitch or whatever. So, and look, we didn't get the trophy that day. You know, it wasn't there for some reason or it wasn't there. Why, I do not know. But I remember going after the game. I think I went home and I cut the grass. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why, because I could have waited till. Well, I think it grown a bit and it was one of the better days, so it needed cutting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think we got it then against Luton at home. Do you know when we got it? Was it a bank holiday?
I'm not sure. You know,
or a midweek game?
I'm not sure.
For some reason,
85?
I've got this thing in my head that it was like a midweek, not a Saturday.
I'll look that up. I'll find that out for you.
Yeah. And then
I'm not sure.
We went. We played Luton and got. Yeah, I think it must have been on the Saturday then. Luton at home, but we got presented with the trophy on the pitch before the game. Red rag to a bull to Luton players. You know, they got Mickey Hartford, they got the lad Foster, and they had some nasty buggers in midfield that all they wanted to do was, spoil our day. I think Ricky Hill actually got injured that day.
Yeah.
Reedy caused him a right beauty. But say that was the beauty of our side. You want to mix it, we'll mix it with you. That's one of our fortes, I think. But, you've got to have that sort of ruthless streak.
Brothers in arms. Like, watch that Bayern Munich game back and you'll see what we mean. Like,
Well, you're lining up sometimes. Players are lining up. You're lining them up. If one doesn't get you, the next one will, and you miss him, the next one does. It was a great time to play with some great players. That's all I can say, really.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously the following season, we had a double sort of pulled out from underneath us. It seemed like we were set to do a double.
All of a sudden, it fell short. You go to Oxford and you expect to win at Oxford, and I think Gary Lineker had more chances in that game than he's had maybe in the 10 before. He scored 40 goals that year, I think, wasn't he? And just couldn't find the back of the net. And I think there's a story about his boots, isn't there? But he didn't have his boots for that game, and he borrowed a pair of boots.
Unlucky.
Yeah. And we were two games away from winning the double. Oxford away, and obviously Liverpool at Wembley in the FA Cup. We were 2 games away, so it was very disappointing. But most probably the kick that we needed it for the following year to go and win it.
Was it motivational to go on and obviously win that title in '87?
Yeah, because I think we knew that Liverpool weren't as good as what they used to be, and we were getting better.
Yeah.
Some of the players that were leaving, the likes of Souness, they replaced Souness with 2 players in Molby and McMahon. And Suey was a motivator as well. So that was a big plus for us. When you read that somebody like Souness is going. I don't know if Rush went then. I don't know if Ian went. But he went somewhere around about 86, 87, didn't he, to Juve?
Yeah.
And then, they're bringing in the likes of Aldo. But, they kept going. They had a winning mentality. And we always knew that, looking at other sides, it's between us and them. I think Man United were trying. But we always seem to find a way of beating Man United quite comfortably as well.
We just trounced them 5-0 at home, didn't
we? Sharpie was like, they couldn't control Sharpie, McGrath and Moran. They just couldn't. And if the lad Hogg played, they just couldn't control Sharpie. He was like, it's just a giant against unwinning headers, bringing things into play. And you think about that 5-0 game. If you think of the team, I think they had the big, what's his name? Big centre-half, Scottish lad. Oh, his daughter's on Sky now. Or is it BT?
I'm trying to think. Mark Hughes was playing for them at that time, weren't he?
No, I don't think Mark played in that game. He would have, just getting in. Yeah, it would have been just sort of round about the Brian McClare.
That's one.
Gordon Strachan, Olsen. I think Whiteside. Robson. That's a great side. But for some reason or other, we were their bogey team.
Yeah.
And you can't have a side that's in the challenging being your bogey side. I think one year, there was something like so many points ahead after about 10 games. And they were being touted as like, the best team. They're going to win the league. And, we looked at it, we're only a quarter of a way into the season. Season's got another 30 games or something to go. So, all of a sudden we've caught them just like that, out of nowhere. It was like, say, going into games knowing you're going to win is just an unbelievable feeling.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned there, like, Sharpie used to give them a torrid time. Out of the centre forwards that you worked with in training during your time at the club, who did you least look forward to coming up against in training?
well, we never really did, 11v11 with Sharpie playing or Andy Gray playing against you. You never did that. We'd be playing against the reserves or something.
Okay.
So you would never really be playing. So it was really odd when I played for Wales against Scotland. I think it was the one when Jock Stein died and Andy and Sharpie were playing. Dave Speedy played up front. He got picked to play with Sharpie. I never had a problem with Dave. I always thought I played really well against Dave Speedy. But to play against your mate, never played against him. Found it really weird. So I remember saying to Sharpie before the game, so I'm going to play on the other centre half, Sharpie. I don't want to talk you. But no, that was weird. That was weird playing against him.
Okay, interesting. But Heath, Sharp, Gray, Lineker, some fantastic.
Well, Heath was different type than what the lads you've just mentioned. He was like a foreign player, whereas he used to move. His movement was brilliant. His touch, his awareness was completely different to them lads you've just mentioned. And he was more of a provider than a goal scorer. But at that time before he got injured, he was on a hell of a run. Yeah, scoring goals. Yeah, shame because he could have been a top player.
Yeah, should have got his call up for England. Really.
Yeah,
but obviously around this time of year, I'm sure you do get a lot of sort of on this day reminders, and not long past that it was the 87 winner, Carrow Road.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't know them things if I wasn't on Twitter, and I've only just joined it in the last sort of 3 or 4 months. So
I was going to say there's I think we've won it at Carrow Road, and I think we got Luton at home in the next game, and there's a fantastic picture. I don't know if you can make it out there.
Yeah.
The only face that's visible there, apart from yourself, is my dad.
Oh, is it? Well, that there. Did he nick me boots?
I don't know, probably.
Because they took me boots off me.
Did they?
Right. Yeah. So the supporters took me boots off me, and believe it or not, when we got back, we put it out obviously on radio and the Echo, I think it was, or the Daily Post. I got them back.
Did you?
That's yeah. Well, we never used to have that many boots. You'd get maybe you get a boots to training, and you get two boots to training, and 1 boots to play. So you got 3 pairs of boots, and then obviously you had to now and again have a new pair for training. So they were rubbers and then studs as well. But your rubbers had to be used for the first team games if you wore them, but nobody was allowed to wear them. The only time I wore rubber boots was actually training. Every day in training I wore rubbers, and I wore them in pre-season games. And the reason being is that they were softer.
Yeah.
You never got blisters.
True. Break them in easier.
Yeah. So, but no, I got them. They were returned because, like I say, you didn't get that many pairs that year, and it was a bit, towards the end of the season, you don't really want to give you a new pair then, because you're due to get another new pair at the start of the season.
But yeah, I love how times have changed, considering the boots the players get these days.
And they take a couple of weeks to break in.
True.
Yeah.
Not to linger on it too long, because even as a supporter that wasn't even born, then it does boil my blood a little bit. But the Heysel ban, had it not been for that 5-year absence from Europe, do you feel like we would have went on to sort of assert some sort of dominance in Europe?
Well, first and foremost, you don't look for another right side for the team, because we lost the right-hand side in Stevens and Steven. Then we lost the manager. So them 3 things you don't lose if you're playing in the European Cup as it was in them days. And I've said this, it was a harder thing to win, in them days than what it is now. You couldn't afford to lose, a leg away from home, and then have somebody like Steaua Bucharest coming to you to Goodison Park and holding on to a 1-0, 2-0 lead. You weren't coming back from that. No, I think teams are a lot tougher as well, because obviously it was tough to play against them sort of Eastern Europeans. But it would have been nice to actually test yourself. But I don't think we recovered from that. It's taken us a long time. If we have recovered, we lost really a bit of the heart and the soul from the club.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I don't think we've recovered all too well from it, to be honest. Because I feel if we assert ourselves in that period of time, I think it stands us in better stead when the Premier League starts up, and that gives you a lot more revenue to.
I think the disappointing thing about it was that we were never even given the opportunity to be invited back into it after it had. We got allowed back in.
Yeah.
So it was sad, but it's one of them things that you've got to take it on the chin and move on.
Yeah.
But it was certainly the demise, I think, of the team and the football club.
I mean, we've had a lot of chops and changes and turnovers since then, but just to sort of update it to the modern day, I think we finally hit the nail on the head now with the manager that we've got in, and Carlo Ancelotti. What do you make of us at the moment?
Well, I can't believe we've been spending all this money, but we've not spent one on a manager. So, it's nice to see that it's the other way round. We've got somebody that everybody looks up to and admires and respects. And I think the biggest thing that he's done is respected the football club. And he's bought into the football club. He's bought into the fans. He's bought into the history. And I think managers in the past have not done that. It's been more about them than it has been about the football club. It is about this guy. Don't get me wrong, he gives you the feeling he cares about it as well. And I think he's been bitten. I think he's been bitten by the football club as well. He seems to be enjoying what he's seeing and what he's hearing. He's become an icon already, I think, with the supporters.
Yeah.
And that's mainly because he's saying the right things. It's what the supporters want to hear. I've been admired, that all of a sudden we seem to have a structure. We seem to have a shape about the side. When I've seen us, I couldn't tell you what system we're playing with some teams that have been picked and what they've been asked to do. It's been sad in one way that we spent all that money and we've then decided it hasn't been working. We've got to go and spend some money on a manager to bring the manager in to coach these players. And what a difference even Duncan, what a difference he made to the same players. The same players. If he should have been given the job, I don't think so. I think that only lasts for so long. I think there's only so long that you can rant and rave at players these days, and I think that's what Duncan's about. I think he'll be learning the other side under Carlo. So he's only going to improve under this manager. But he gives us something that we've been missing for a few years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, still very young for the coach. So
sorry.
Duncan's still very young in his coaching career, I'd say.
Yeah, well, you say that, but then you look at somebody like Frank Lampard and people like that, given the opportunity and what they've done. And if you think about it, Frank's been doing it with a young squad, bringing youngsters through. And I think that's what Duncan did, and give the likes of Calvert-Lewin that real confidence to go out there and express themselves, and he's got a reward from that. It's all about managing the players, but the way that Duncan did it, could you do that week in, week out? I don't know with these players these days, because once you lose a player, that's it, you've lost him for good. He'll want his next £1 million move, line his pockets. But, the days are gone where you can get right into a player. There's some players you can still do it to, but you've got to pick and choose which ones.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly need to have that sort of old school mentality about you to be able to sort of receive criticism in a sense. And I was just wondering what you make of the current captain situation at the club, because obviously, we had Phil Neville and Phil Elka for so long, and then we sort of went into the phase of Coleman and Baines, who, I've got to be honest, once their careers come to an end, I think they'll be considered as two of the better players not to have ever won anything for Everton.
Yeah. Look, it was quite remarkable under Silva that he had different captains. He gave it to Tom Davies, didn't he? He wasn't even a regular for the team. So what's that about? I think he cheapened it. Not Tom, but the manager.
No, yeah.
it's got to be the ultimate honour, for the player to actually, get the, Everton FC armband.
Yeah.
Come on, there shouldn't be 4 or 5 captains through the year. Does that mean you're not quite sure? Doesn't give you the right vibes. Look, I think Coleman's been a fantastic. He's come into the situation similar to me, that he's not first team regular. And all of a sudden you're a club captain, but you're not captain on the team. It's a tricky situation. But who will be the next captain? That's a big one. I've got a feeling that Holgate might be. Yeah. But your performances have got to be consistent. And I must admit, last year I've been really impressed with Mason. I think his contribution to the side's been top class, and he's looking the best out of the players that we've actually brought in for 20 odd million. And I don't know how much we brought him in for, but
come through the academy, didn't he?
Academy, yeah. So he's not paid too much on him. That's Calvert-Lewin we brought in, wasn't it? But yeah, it's really weird that can you pluck somebody? And I think somebody like a Mason or a Coleman has been at the club for a number of years. Coleman we brought in from Cork, but I think that Mason, who's come through the ranks, will know what it's about. And I think you could see him maybe. But then again, players react differently. Some people don't enjoy being I wouldn't say they don't enjoy being captain. I would say that performances drop.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful that when you do give somebody the captain's arm, these performances aren't dropping. They've got to be exactly the same as what they've been given. That's why you've got it. So it's going to be, you can't really see any of the midfield.
No.
Yeah. It's it's a tricky one. It all depends who comes in as well.
Of course, definitely. And I mean, I think Mason was he followed a similar path to John Stones, and that he come from Barnsley, and then to come through the under-23s. And as you say, he gives that air of an old school defender, and seems just his attitude on the pitch.
I think the thing as well with centre halves is you don't really get too many young centre halves playing. You don't really get 19, 20-year-old centre halves playing week in, week out. And there's a reason behind that. Obviously, you've not grown into that man that you're going to be. The responsibility. There is a couple that have been there, but you've seen why they've played at the age of 19, 20 as a centre half. He's done it. I think he's, my really player of the year this year. The way he's come on in leaps and bounds.
Definitely, say between him and Calvert-Lewin for me, definitely. And
it might be, looking at him, he's played in midfield, and he's looked like the best midfield player we've had as well.
I know.
So there's opportunities there that if he does be bringing people in, which I'm sure they will be, they've got to be looking. I mean, I know they've got to get rid of players with the wage bill that they've got for the fair play rules. So I think it's going to be interesting. And what an interesting period this is, and the COVID-19 period is that, I read the other day that wages could drop. I think that might be a better thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a sort of decrease in value in players on the transfer market, and
so I think there might be a drop in wage. Hopefully there is, and there's more of an emphasis on a win bonus. Which is, I think it'd be better for clubs. It'd be better for supporters.
Just tell me about it. Interesting future ahead. And just to round it up now, Kev, it's been an absolute honour to speak to you. I know you said you've got fond memories of that FA Cup win against Watford, but if you were to pick sort of one moment in your Everton career, what would it be?
God, that's a toughie. That when you've done so much, which is a nice thing. There's so many good things. I think going into training every day at the club. It's one thing that you know, that somebody said to me, Andy King said to me years and years ago, that once you finish, the one thing you'll miss is going into that training ground every day, the facilities that you've got and the camaraderie. And he's dead right. You do. And I don't mean that through the players. I mean it through the dinner ladies, the ground staff, you know, the groundsman, Dougie Rose, and that, to Dave Ash, the cleaner, the janitor, Hong Kong Thui. Them people you miss, you know, because you'd have as much banter with them as you would be with the players. And I still keep in touch with the what's her name, Dave Ash.
Yeah.
Because he actually went to Everton as the janitor the year after I'd signed as an apprentice. So we're the same age. And believe it or not, he's the hardest man I've ever known in my life. black belt in Kung Fu. I believe he's now a taxi driver. So I catch up with him now and again on the phone. So it's, you know, I miss them guys just as much as the players that I've played with. You know, the dinner ladies and Carol and Betty that used to be there for years and years. The chef and guys like that. Dougie Rose, who was the groundsman. You know, that sort of going up there at 10 o'clock they were, and to have a cup of tea just before they were on their sort of break before lunch. And they'd be up there and we'd be having a cup of tea with them. And Dougie Rose he put people down just like that. So, you know, people he just, you know, we'd never ever met him before. And we'd only been there 4 weeks, and we'd walk through the door and he'd say, "All right, Doug," and say, "Oh, you still here?" You know, things like that. Come on. Yeah.
Nah, excellent. I think it's a, you know, true reflection of a captain that those are your fondest memories of the club. Kevin, I've got to say, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you, and fingers crossed sometime soon we get our stuff together and we achieve, so, you know, almost half the success that you do. So do I.
Certainly hope so. Hopefully it's not too far away. All right,
fingers crossed.